Hey, I'm Carl Azus, welcoming you to CNN Student News. Everyone's getting ready for the weekend. Many Americans are spending this Friday preparing for what could be a devastating hurricane. States of emergency, voluntary evacuations, Navy ships moving out to sea. All of it is because of Hurricane Irene. When it comes to these storms, there's something called a cone of uncertainty. That's what the area is called that could be impacted depending on what path a hurricane takes. With Irene, that cone of uncertainty includes most of the northeastern United States. And you can see why in these images of Hurricane Irene from space. It's huge. Officials think it could get stronger. Thursday afternoon, the storm hit part of the Bahamas. Forecasters predict it'll approach the North Carolina coast on Saturday. That's why people are packing up and heading farther inland. North Carolina's governor has declared a state of emergency for several counties. The governors of Virginia, Maryland, and New Jersey have done the same thing. What declaring a state of emergency does is allow states to use certain money to help prepare for the storm. In Washington, D.C., there are plans to dedicate the National Martin Luther King Memorial this Sunday. Organizers have been watching the path of Irene, waiting to see if they need to make a backup plan. As of Thursday afternoon, though, plans for Sunday's dedication were still on schedule. One U.S. official said the biggest concern is getting people to pay attention and make sure they're ready. A hurricane hasn't made landfall in the U.S. since 2008, and it's rare that they hit the Northeast. But it has happened, and Anderson Cooper shows us it can bring devastating consequences.
You're watching pictures of the last major hurricane to hit the Northeast coast exactly 20 years ago. This is Hurricane Bob back in August of 1991. The eye of the storm passed over Rhode Island before making landfall as a strong Category 2 with winds of 115 miles per hour. Bob was blamed for over $1 billion in damage and 18 storm-related deaths. Just 2 months later, Hurricane Grace also threatened as a Category 2 storm before being absorbed by an unusual weather system that led to the Halloween nor'easter of 1991, later called the perfect storm. The storm lashed the east coast of the United States with pounding waves and coastal flooding, causing significant damage in Massachusetts, Maine, New Hampshire, and New Jersey. 9 people were killed in the storm, which produced 100-foot waves, equivalent to a 10-story building. It inspired the novel by author Sebastian Junger, which later became a movie. And then there's the so-called storm of the century. Hurricane Gloria in September of 1985 recorded winds of up to 150 miles per hour. Gloria made landfall as a powerful Category 3 storm on the Outer Banks of North Carolina before rapidly moving up the East Coast, making a second landfall on Long Island, then another in Connecticut, causing significant damage up and down the East Coast and 8 storm-related deaths. Hurricanes in the Northeast are rare, but as Hurricane Irene approaches, meteorologists warn it could turn northward, threatening much of the East Coast with another potentially dangerous storm. Anderson Cooper, CNN, New York.
Over in Libya, in North Africa, rebel fighters control most of the capital city of Tripoli, but they're still fighting troops that are loyal to longtime Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi. The rebels are getting some help from special forces from other countries, including the United Kingdom and France. Those forces are on the ground in Libya, helping the rebels in Tripoli and other cities. This video was shot at the Tripoli airport, which is controlled by the rebels. But they don't have control of some of the areas around it. Gaddafi's supporters are attacking the rebels from those areas. They destroyed 3 passenger planes like the one you see here in a 24-hour period. We won't be back with you until Monday, but CNN.com is updating constantly. So if you want to follow what's happening in Libya or what is going on with Hurricane Irene, make sure to log on CNN.com.
See if you can ID me. I'm a computer pioneer who's worked in technology since high school. What started in my garage became one of America's most valuable businesses. I co-founded the company that makes the iPhone and the iPod. I'm Steve Jobs, one of the co-founders of Apple.
It's tough to overstate the influence of Steve Jobs. Mac computers, iPhones, iTunes, even the movie business. In 1986, Jobs bought an animation studio you've probably heard of. It's Pixar. He helped turn that company into the household name it is today. But this week, Jobs announced he's resigning as the head of Apple, the company he helped found in his garage. He's had some serious medical problems in recent years, although his resignation announcement didn't mention that specifically. Poppy Harlow explores reaction to the news.
The impact was immediate. Apple stock fell 5% in after-hours trading Wednesday when Steve Jobs announced he's stepping down as CEO. Fans of Jobs were surprised by the news.
He resigned?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear it because he was so great for the company. He's so creative, so innovative.
Jobs, who has been on medical leave since January, released a statement. I have always said if there ever came a day when I could no longer meet my duties and expectations as Apple's CEO, I would be the first to let you know. Unfortunately, that day has come.
It's really hard to overstate just how important Steve Jobs has been to business, to the economy, what he's done, because he's really revolutionized so many businesses.
Computers, mobile phones, digital music, Jobs' influence has been unparalleled. His latest product, the iPad, continues to break records. Analysts say it's the fastest-selling technological device ever. Jobs co-founded Apple in 1976 from his family's garage. 9 years later, a power struggle led to his exit. But Jobs returned again in 1996, soon after becoming CEO and transforming the company into what it is today, one of the biggest corporations in the world, worth nearly $350 billion. Earlier this month, Apple briefly passed ExxonMobil as the stock market's most valuable company.
An iPod, a phone. Are you getting it?
But it's not only because of Jobs' innovation. He's also a brilliant marketer.
The secrecy and the kind of theater that Apple brings to every product launch, every other company in the world, whether they're in, electronics, consumer electronics, or clothing or automobiles, they can learn from Apple and what they do.
In the only commencement address Jobs ever gave, in 2005 at Stanford University, he touched upon the secret of his success.
And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking and don't settle.
Time for the shout out. What did the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution do? If you think you know it, then shout it out. Did it give women the right to vote, establish presidential succession, end prohibition, or set term limits? You've got 3 seconds. Go. The 19th Amendment gave women the right to vote. That's your answer, and that's your shout out.
That amendment was certified, meaning it became law 91 years ago today. And that's why August 26th is Women's Equality Day. Congress established the annual event in 1971. There are 2 goals. 1, to celebrate the passage of the 19th Amendment, and 2, to raise awareness about the ongoing efforts for full equality between men and women. That's something President Obama talked about in his Women's Equality Day proclamation. He said that women in America today are reaping the benefits of what earlier generations fought for. And at the same time, they're paving the way for future generations. He called on Americans to mark Women's Equality Day by celebrating the achievements of women, but he also urged the country to recommit itself to the goal of gender equality. All right, before we go, we want to show you a vacation spot that's out of this world. It's the first space hotel, or at least it's what developers are hoping will be the first space hotel. This week they announced plans for it to open in 2016. You'll have to train for up to 3 months before you can go up in this thing, but you can stay there for up to 6 months. Although once you're there, it's not like there's a lot to do. Plus, the hotel has a maximum capacity of 7 people, which means, ironically, there just ain't a whole lot of space. Still, it might be worth it. Being one of the first guests at the Space Hotel can certainly make you a star. Hope you have a great weekend. For CNN Student News, I'm Carl Azuz.